Welcome, everyone, to the celebration of life for Stan Sweet. My name is Cap Sharpless. I was a friend of Stan's. Stan was a remarkable man. He lived life with great enthusiasm. Stan was enthusiastic about his friends and formed many enduring friendships with a wide variety of people. Stan was enthusiastic about teaching, devoting great energy, creativity, and leadership to the profession. Stan was enthusiastic about his recreation, relishing every joyous moment being with friends and family, and sometimes leading them astray. Yeah. Before we move on to the speakers and slideshows, I want to recognize people who contributed time and/or money to the planning of this event. Royce Long, Stephanie and John Saxton, Joe Benetti, Amy Greil, Rob and Dina Miles, G. Samara and Lance Chung, Karen and Dan Henricks, Pete Kalina and Rick Shearer, Annie Donnelly and Craig Cornu, Kate Sharpless, and me. Special thanks to Joe Benetti, who contributed the billboard to publicize this event, and another special thanks to Amy Greil, who arranged for the bracelets and postcards, and for any of you who did not get a bracelet or a postcard, they will be out front available after this. So, first speaker, Stephanie Sweet Saxton, Stan's sister.
Sorry. Okay, I'm standing naturally. Thank you. Wow, Stan was definitely loved. And Stan loved. Once again, I'm not prepared for this, but you know, that's okay. He was my nemesis from day one. Some of you already know that. He didn't like me from the day that Mom and Dad brought me home, is the story he likes to tell. But about 15 years ago, we finally became friends. He was loyal. He was an amazing brother and son and friend, colleague, companion. But he liked to get into mischief, and he liked to play practical jokes. He used to like to take my stuffed animal and put it in the washing machine and say, "Oh no, alligator is drowning." Of course, it had me in tears at age 9, 10, 11, 12. And I don't think the practical jokes ever stopped till the day that we lost him. What an awesome person. I know he touched all of your lives, and you'll all have those memories forever, as our family will. Yeah. So, cherish the memories, the time we had with him, and one day we can all be with him again. Thank you for coming and helping us celebrate Stan.
Next speaker is Rick Shearer, Stan's uncle.
When we first came into this theater, there weren't any railings there. I said, oh my God, somebody's going to fall and break their neck. So we begged, borrowed, and stole from some fence companies, and so we have pipes. Anyway, thank you. I knew Stan for close to 40 years. It's fitting that we're here at the Egyptian because Stan loved this place. He was proud of Pete and I, his Uncle Pete and I, for being part of the first group that opened this theater back up in 2006. He used to bring his classes here for movies on the last day of school so they wouldn't have to be bored sitting in the classroom. And he always wanted to make sure that if any kid didn't have any money, that they had a popcorn and a drink. Can't have a movie without popcorn. We held benefits here for the British Exchange Program. And the first movie that we showed for them was The Goonies, and we filled this like this. We filled this downstairs. We didn't have the balcony open yet. And Stan decided that we should interrupt the film and organize the Truffle Shuffle up here on the stage. Man, I wish I had a film of that. Stan could truffle and shuffle. Stan was several people. He was a partner, a life partner to Royce. But he was also a son, a grandson, a brother, an uncle, a nephew, a cousin to many, and a good friend to many, many, many more. And he was the conduit that kept those people all informed about what was going on with them. Stan had the 411 on everybody. All you had to do was call him, and he'd say, "Oh yeah, I saw so-and-so, whatever, they're doing fine, whatever." But Stan was really more than that. He was a teacher, a good teacher. He had a knack for knowing when a kid needed a little push, a pat on the back, or even a trip to the principal's office for just some discipline. Many years ago, there were young people that volunteered here at the theater. They were from the high school, and they had been through Stan's class at the Sunset, and they had tremendous respect for him. Over the years, I've kept in touch with them. It's been over 10 years now. And when we were up in Portland at OHSU, just out of the blue, one of them called me and said, "Oh, somehow I felt like I needed to get in touch with you. I hadn't heard from him for several months." When I called him back, I told him what happened. He said, "I'll be there." He happened to be in Portland, lives in Salem. He was there in 20 minutes, and there were a lot of hugs and a lot of tears, but he was real good. He respected Stan tremendously, and he wrote a note to Stan, and he said in these words, and I'll have to paraphrase part of this because some of it doesn't apply, but Stan, this is definitely not acceptable. In class, you pushed me to try harder, go further, and dig deeper. You taught me that just okay was not good enough for me. I will never forget you for that. His name's Mike Milan. He's in China right now visiting his dad, who's a teacher over there in China. So he'd be here today to tell you how much he respected Stan. There are hundreds of young people out there feeling the same way. Feeling that they have some memories from 7th and 8th grade that may have changed their lives dramatically. That is Stan's legacy. We have to remember that. Stan, you left us way too early, but your memory lingers on, and I will miss you forever. Thank you.
Next, we have Roxy Long, Royce's mother and Stan's mother-in-law.
Okay, notes to keep me on track. Here we go. Well, I would like to share with everybody, as we know, Stan was just an amazing, outstanding person. And I would like to share everybody with the week that we spent up at OHSU. We had a Stan Suite City built there. We rearranged the furniture to accommodate everybody that was coming and going. All the food, the adult coloring books, the friends, just kept coming, whatever you wanted. But what I noticed most of all, out of everybody coming and going, was, and they were all there for Stan, but I realized that Stan was the gift. He was the drawing that everybody was coming to see and to pay their respects to such an amazing person. But Stan was the gift. And a gift of a loving man that made a difference. He loved unconditionally. He never talked bad smack about anybody. And if somebody was, Stan would turn it around and he'd say, wait a minute, that person is amazing here that you may not even have known about. And so he would turn that around. And I just love that for Stan. And I gotta see through my stuff here. And he just would pay beautiful attributes to people. There just wasn't negative talk about anybody that I heard. And his steadfast compassion for his family, friends, students, and their corgis, all 5 of them. It was just amazing, as there's more of it to hear. And during that whole week, all these people kept coming and going, and as their stories unfolded, it just confirmed that, yeah, Royce, he was the right man for you. He was the right man for a lot of different things. Stan was amazing. And while there, Royce asked me, Mom, why? Why does somebody so good and so productive have to go so young? And behind all my tears and his tears, it's like we don't get to know that. We don't get to know why they go so young. But what we do get is all the love and the feelings in our hearts that carry us on until we get to meet them on the other side. And that's what I'm looking forward to. And a few days after Stan passed and we were all home, and Royce called and he goes, Mom, he goes, Stan's still teaching. What do you mean, Royce? And the amazing staff that we had that were with Stan at OHSU, they called and they asked Royce if they could use Stan's case for teaching up-and-coming doctors, professors, and medical students. How wonderful is that? So Stan would get to go on and teach. That was his passion, whether it was at the cabin or over for dinner or whatever. Stan was always the one to stand for what was right. And so, in closing, I would like to thank Bob Sweet for Stan. And there you go, that's what it was at. And Patty Sweet for Stan. And he was an amazing person. And from you, you have put out a person in this world that, well, as you can see, meant a lot to everybody. And thank you. And Lance and G, the most amazing people, are getting something done, anything done. Those are the 2 people to go to. And they made a difference. Stan made a difference. And this one's to Stan. And Stan, just because you're gone from our sight, it doesn't mean that we don't have you. We have you in our heart. You'll be with us in so many different ways. Your life was well lived, loved, and even though it was short, it was sweet. Yeah. And so as we all know, life can change in an instant. We all know that too well. So I encourage all of us to be a difference in this changing world. And laugh, love, forgive, and hold hands.
There'll be a slight pause between now and the family slideshow. That was Lance Chung and Rob Miles responsible for that. So, colleagues, students, and parent speakers, Jamie Faraday, one of his co-workers.
As Roxy mentioned, the OHSU experience was a phenomenon. The team there, the medical team, was amazing. They had not seen this gathering before this time, and they had us all in one room. There was probably 30 of us, maybe 35. It was a small room, and it got kind of hot. And they were giving the results of what they understood about Stan's condition. And then once they had done that, they asked us what Stan was about, because they were just amazed at this group. And so we all sort of went around and said our piece about Stan so that they had a better idea, and they were blown away. And I don't remember what I said then. It took me 2 weeks to write this thing, which I have to read because I won't be able to get through this without it. So here goes. 2 things that stand out for all of us. Stan was an exceptional teacher. And he made lasting friendships, obviously. I can't see quite up there on the balcony, but it looks like there's plenty up in the balcony. I first met him when we taught at Milcoma. This was early in his career. Stan performed like a seasoned teacher, nurturing growth in his students. He had the admirable quality of quickly learning every individual student's strengths, weaknesses, and needs, and then went to work toward their success. Some of his innovations and activities were well known, and at least among his peers. In his early occupation as a corgi rancher, Stan brought patches into the classroom to help herd adolescents toward being successful learners and thoughtful human beings. This should have continued, but a rule banned corgi Stan from the curriculum. Then there was the British Stan, the student exchange program with the British school, exposing both students, faculty on the site of, exposing both schools, students, and faculty to on-site cultural experiences. I assisted with one outing with a large group of British students and teachers paddling canoes and kayaks up South Slough. There were goals of learning about native culture and natural history along the way, but I remember the Brits learning more about keeping a paddlecraft straight and lifting themselves out of the mud. The Coos History Museum engaged Stan's guidance and the talents of his 8th grade students to role play early residents of Coos Bay. The students then performed these early American roles for 4th and 5th graders on the waterfront. I wouldn't be surprised if there are some of those actors here today. Sunset Middle School Yearbook was for years under Stan's guidance. His team produced a premium quality edition every time. Some of those students went on to help with the award-winning Marshfield Times. Effective teaching takes commitment, constant adjustment, and alertness, the ability to make several decisions in short order, and a healthy sense of humor. Stan had that down and then some. He was admired and respected by his colleagues for mastering these skills, and he clearly excelled at stimulating learning. His students respected him because they knew he had their back. When things didn't go so well in the school building, Stan could be counted on to add calm, reason, and humor to the mess, which nurtured resolutions, whether it be with students, staff, or faculty. Stan was a force for doing what was right and just for his students and colleagues. Outside of school, Stan valued his friendships and the time spent with others, cooking, gardening, beach time on the Illinois River, and trying out new mixological recipes. He hosted countless gatherings at his North Bend home or Agnes cabin, and will always be remembered for being the quintessential host. I visited Stan at his home on his birthday, the day before he was life-flighted to Portland. He was out of school that week, recovering for what he assumed was a minor back injury sustained doing some plumbing at the cabin. We caught up on matters of home, Royce's fishing ventures on the Harvester, and school. One of the last things I asked about as I took one of the 5 corgis off my lap, getting ready to leave, was, "How are your students?" His face brightened, and he said, "They're wonderful. I love my students." Thank you, Stan.
Adam Drew, a fellow coworker.
I probably should have written some things down because my mind's bouncing all over the place with stories and listening to the people who've spoken so far. To start, two phrases keep on just going through my head over and over, and it's two phrases that Stan and I used to try to instill in students as much as we possibly could. And one was, you're more influential than you know. We try to teach all of our students that they matter and that their influence matters. And another one is, how do you want to be remembered? And how fitting is it that for so many years we try to teach students about how they want to be remembered, and here we are remembering one of the masters of leaving legacies. Before I get too deep though, I can't help but think back to some interesting stories real quick from the speakers we've actually heard from. Stephanie, thanks for asking me to be here. Thanks for cooking holiday dinners and all those types of things and taking me in when I didn't have things going on with my own family. Thanks for allowing me to help teach your son how to spell big words. I tried teaching Quinn when he was about 8 years old how to spell a great word, assassinate. I made sure to stop and emphasize after each ass, innate. And as so often was the case, when I would do these types of things, Stan would be in the background and he'd say something like, Adam. He'd shake his head, roll his eyes, but he'd let me get away with what I could now and then. And hey, Quinn knows how to spell the word. That's what matters. Listening to Stan's uncle talk about the story about this Egyptian theater and opening it up and how much Stan loved it. Oh my gosh, did he? I was here when we did that fundraiser, and I remember those moments. I remember Mike Milan teaching with Stan. I remember him getting through to kids like that, even when they hated him in the moment. We're like, how could you hold me to this standard, this expectation? How dare you be right? And he affected, not hundreds, he affected thousands of kids. Thousands, still. And I remember so many of those occasions in the classroom. And those kids, they remember. He influenced them like no one else could. It was an amazing thing. And I have to bring it up. I don't know Stan's mother-in-law, but she said something remarkable to me. She said, and to all of you, she said that he didn't talk smack about people. And maybe he changed. I don't know. I was in the shower this morning shaving and I cut my chin. I swear to God, he was like, stupid. He talked smack all the time, but it was beautiful smack. That smirk we saw up there in that picture with him with that drink, oh my gosh, that side of Stan that we enjoyed. He could do it like no one else. It was great. And Jamie, so good to see you again. I have to tell this story. Stan was there, that's the only connection. It was a staff meeting. Jamie Faraday walked in with the best attire I've ever seen during a staff meeting. He was late. He rolled in with his 10-speed. He's very conscientious about the environment. He was late because he rode his bike to school. He also was wearing spandex and the full attire and everything. And as he came in and set his helmet on the 10-speed or whatever it was, and he kind of walked over, from the depths of the teacher tables, this man, Mr. Moreni, he said, Jesus, Faraday, are you smuggling plums? That really happened. It did. Oh, shoot. So many ways I could go with that one. Stan's talking smack right now about that one, I guarantee it. The first time I met the man, I'm an idiot. I'm walking through the hallway, and I hear this guy talking. I'd heard things about him. I didn't know much about him. Millicoma had joined with Sunset that year. We'd merged. And he's talking. I'd heard some things. He's a popular teacher. Everybody liked him. I heard he was sarcastic. Heard he was a pretty cool guy. So I just invaded his room and was like, blah, 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 blah. So I'm thinking I'm hilarious. A couple kids laughed. And Stan, non-smack talker, Stan just looked me straight in the eyes, walked towards me, and he shut the door in my face. Maybe he didn't talk smack because the dude didn't say anything. He just shut the door in my face. And I remember standing there just thinking, that guy just gave me the best comeback ever. I had nothing left to say. So, long story short, somehow magically after an encounter like that, I get called down to the office and Stan's in there with our principal, and he wants to start a small school the year after. And he wants me to be on the team, and he's gonna be the team leader. And the team was, I'm gonna give a little shout out here, Riptide. And, you know, he was trying to sell it, and I'm listening to it, thinking about it and everything, and he's telling me that Maureen Kelly is gonna be our science teacher, and I don't know these people very well yet, you know, and oh my gosh, may he rest in peace, Freddie Gert. Freddie Gert. Yeah, Fred was our math teacher, maybe one of the, you know, top funniest people in the world. And not only was Stan the history teacher and our team leader, and I was gonna be the English teacher, but he actually wanted, it blew my mind, he wanted to team teach with me. Shut the door in my face, now you want to team teach, okay. So, I didn't know what to say again. So, I said, okay. and we gave it a shot, and that shot turned into this progressive, groundbreaking, amazing experience like I'll never forget, and like a lot of kids will never forget, and like Stan never forgot. And even though I hadn't seen him in so long, the communications that we would have were always about our students, our past students that we taught together, how they were now influencing the world, how they were now making an impact on people like we so desperately wanted them to do. We talk about them. That was our connection that was there forever. And that team teaching was amazing. That partition opened up, and we had 70 kids in one room at a time. And I can't explain it. It was like this magic kind of event, because I've done a lot of great things teaching-wise in my life that I love and will never forget. But that was it. There was something about that 5-year period we had together. And I've been chasing that ever since, and I know I'll never find it again. That was like one of those 5-year experiences that'll never happen again. And I'm so blessed that I got to share it with him. And for those 5 years, that guy, I mean, you know, from morning to the end of work, we were together. We planned together, talked together, did everything together. And, you know, wow, to know him more than anyone else in my life for 5 years, there's no way he didn't influence me and leave a huge imprint on me. And I really, really appreciate what he did. I mean, he took me under his wing when I needed a mentor. He was that voice of reason when I'd go over the edge. He was that shoulder when I needed a friend. That brother when I needed someone to love me and help me through. And man, what a teacher. He taught everybody, all of us. I'm not the teacher I am without that teacher in my life. And I'm not the man I am without that man in my life. And I appreciate him being everything he was to me and everyone else. And, you know, those out-of-school excursions and the trips to the cabin and bringing my dog Bugsy to try to hang out with his dog Patches. And it was kind of funny because they took on the same personalities of their owners, because my dog was an idiot. And Patches was kind of like Stan. She'd look over at my dog and like roll her eyes. So many experiences. And I'm sorry to take up so much time. Interestingly enough, they called our duo, the students called our duo, short and sweet. Yeah, he got to keep his cool name. I got to be made fun of for my height. And I didn't keep this very short, but to Stan Sweet, to someone who we all, we love. That's why we're here. I would just say to everyone who's here and the people who want to be here, those two phrases. You're more influential than you know. Stan, dude, for real. It applies to you. And how do you want to be remembered? Is that important? I think so. I think so. And we'll never forget him. Thank you.
Sam Makita is going to speak for the Makita family.
I still remember my first day of 7th grade. This is the grade where you'd start going from class to class, like you do in high school. All of the teachers, save one, were new. This, combined with the sudden new routine, certainly caused a great deal of distress in me, which is today only surpassed by WASPs, social interaction, and debate. Exiting the van, I announced to my mom, I'm off to certain doom. So I had Mr. Sweet's class for advisory and social studies. He had this thing where we'd write an interesting fact about ourselves. So this is what I wrote down. Today is my birthday. In fact, this is the second time my birthday was on the first day of school, with the first time being in the 2nd grade. Fun fact, my 2nd grade year sucked. And so, Mr. Sweet introduced one of his many traditions to me. Whenever it's someone's birthday, he'd give them a little present, a hat for them to wear around the school, announcing the importance of this person for the day. It was there I learned that maybe the 7th grade wouldn't be as bad as the 2nd grade. And now you know why I'm wearing a sombrero to a memorial service. In my opinion, the connection between the teacher and the student is vital in education. If your student is completely afraid of you, fear can stifle creativity. At the same time, you gotta drive your students. They're not gonna do anything if there aren't gonna be any consequences. Mr. Sweet certainly had both of these qualities. On one hand, he had a certain level of strictness. If you were slacking off, as I used to years before, he wouldn't even do anything specific. He'd just tell you to get to work. And you would. The way he told you kept you on track because from that tone of voice alone, you could tell that he wasn't someone you wanted to mess with. And at the same time, he was one of, if not the nicest teachers you've ever met. There were all these fun little traditions, all these huge projects which were really fun to undertake. Remember the Pyramid Project? The Perfect Spartan Athenian? And occasionally he'd bring his corgis. He also had the greatest sense of humor I've ever seen in a teacher. The best day I've ever had in my entire school career was the day when he showed us this classic BBC video from the 1950s about spaghetti farmers harvesting from their spaghetti trees. He turned to me and asked about my trip to London a little while back and my experience with the locally grown spaghetti. I responded that it was pretty good, although I couldn't really tell too much of a difference between the whole grown variety and the factory made. My palate just wasn't sophisticated enough, whatever that means. Otherwise, I enjoyed it. So yeah, the day was April 1st. He brought up this classic April Fool's gag and suddenly dragged me into the game. He pulled it off flawlessly. The whole class was fooled. This is the greatest April Fool's I've ever witnessed, and he only amplified it by playing it up with his student. Also that day in history class, he talked about Roman sewer lice. He even brought one up to the class and ate it. And so they're all like, hey, you're not allowed to eat from laboratory beakers. So my mom's asked me to say a few words on her behalf. She's currently, shall we say, incapable of reading this right now. Plus, we don't have enough tissues. Recently, she saw a quote from Victoria Erickson that said, "There are certain people that will inhabit a small, quiet space inside your heart despite any circumstance, happening, or situation. They left a piece of themselves when your souls collided upon impact, and there they'll always subtly remain. Except that Mr. Sweet is written in bold across our hearts. He showed our kids how to be decent human beings by being an exemplary human being himself. He brought joy to our lives with his wit and humor. He gave with all his heart, like it didn't cost him anything. And looking at the crowd here today, we can see the impact of what he has sown. And I think I can speak for pretty much all of his students when I say that Mr. Sweet was an awesome teacher. The people I know who had him, he was their favorite. So, show of hands. How many students do we have with us here today? Listen, I want you all to promise me something. Mr. Sweet was an awesome teacher. And the other teachers you have, they're pretty awesome too. It takes determination to get a single class of 20 hyperactive kids to sit down and do their work, let alone 7 classes a day. Teachers like Mr. Sweet do this for a living. Promise me that when you see them again, thank them for all the hard work they've done. I don't believe we thank our teachers enough for what they do. Go out and thank them as soon as you can before you lose your chance for good. Mr. Sweet was probably the greatest teacher I've ever known, and I'm honored to have been a student. Now, I know I've been up here for a while, but I've got one last big sweet story up here for you guys. Some of you may know this, but Mr. Sweet's favorite book was Dune. You know, that story with the sandworms and the spice and, well, the dunes. See, I wasn't much of a reader that year, but Mr. Sweet would always pick out a silent reading book for me to spend time on. He's the one who got me into reading Dan Brown's novels. I believe Dune was the last silent reading book he assigned to me that year. It took me a while to understand it, but I slowly picked up on the story and finished it. But at the end of the year, he called me out into the hallway and gave me this. Inside the front cover, it's signed June 12, 2013. Dear Sam, I cannot tell you how much I have enjoyed having you in class this year. You have challenged me, amazed me, and inspired me. I will miss you terribly. I was so proud of the way you threw yourself into reading this year. Promise that you will pick this up and read it every few years. It will mean different things at different points in your life. All the best, Stan Sweet. And if I remember correctly, it doesn't actually specifically say here, but if I remember correctly, when he called me out to the hall, he specifically mentioned reading this every 5 years. Now, I understand that maybe I might be a couple years early, but I'd say now's a good time. In the week before their departure to Arrakis, when all the final scurrying about had reached a nearly unbearable frenzy, an old crone came to visit the mother of the boy, Paul. Thank you.
Next is Brady Ball.
Whenever I come to these things, it truly amazes me how one person can bring so many together or impact so many different people in so many different ways. And it's awesome. I love seeing it. So, a little story. Me and some of my friends were talking and just talking about school and in general, and I was like, yeah, I've been there for about 17 years now. He's in here soon. But we were talking about, what was our favorite years of school, and I can easily say that my 8th grade year at Sunset Middle School was my favorite of all times, and a big part of that was because of people like Mr. Stan Sweet. So coming towards the end of 8th grade year, you're going into high school, you get your license and you start driving. And my dad told me, if you can get straight A's one time, I'll buy you a car. I was like, all right, well, I better do it now because high school's gonna be a little bit more tough. So I was working my butt off towards the end of the year, and I was going through my classes, science with Miss Kelly, had an A, don't know how, but I did. Math was Mr. Gert, rest in peace as well. That was kind of my subject, so A there. English, Mr. Drew, he was always a little generous on the extra credit, so I wasn't too worried there. And then we went to Mr. Sweet, and I think I had history class, and I had about 85, 87%. And I went into his class the last 3 weeks, and I told him, the situation, like, my dad's gonna give me a car if I get straight A's, it's the last one I'm worried about. He's like, all right, well, come into my classroom every day after school, and I'll assign you some history readings, and you'll take your AR test at the end of the week, and we'll see what we can do. So I show up every day, and he would assign me so many chapters, and at the end of the week, I'd do my AR test and bring it into him, and it's the last day of school, and I bring him my last one. I was like, all right, cool, I get the A? He's like, I don't know, I can't tell you, I gotta calculate it. I was like, what do you mean? Can you just tell me? I get the A? And he's like, no, I gotta wait. I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll wait on this one. And we went to the foyer. I went to the foyer after that, and it was the 8th grade award ceremony, and giving out best history teacher or best history student and PE student. And then the very last one, he was talking, and Mr. Sweet was up there, and he said, all right, this one goes to the overall student of the year. And he started naming off all these characteristics about this student. And the last things he said was, and this student finally got straight A's for the first time, and his dad owes him a new car. And so I got up, he called my name, and I went up on stage, and Drew held me in the air, and Sweet handed me the certificate, and it was just so cool how he knew that I was working towards something, and he did this with all of his students, that if you gave him a goal and you were working towards it, he was going to reward you in some way. And it was really cool how he didn't tell me right then, even though he knew, but to be able to publicize it like that. And so, he cared about his students as students, but he also cared about them as people, and I think that's what was most inspiring about him. And so we fast forward 8 years later, it's January 2015. I'm in the middle of my senior year at the University of Oregon, and I get the call that my mom unexpectedly passed away. And so we had this beautiful service for her a week later out at Sunset Beach, and hundreds of people were there. And obviously my family and I were an emotional wreck, so don't remember if everybody that was there, but there was a couple people that I remember running into and talking to that just really meant a whole lot to me to see them. And after I gave my speech there, out of the crowd, comes Stan Sweet, and he gives me the biggest hug. He just says how proud he is of my brother and I, and that he's there for us. And I said, thank you so much, Mr. Sweet, for being here. He's like, no, you call me Stan from now on. And I was like, okay, Stan, well, thanks for being there. But it really speaks volumes. I think everybody here, and obviously he impacted so many people. And so I figured I'd keep it short and sweet up here, and ask everybody to join in with me, for celebrating a life that was well lived, touched the hearts of so many people, and a man that will be dearly missed but will never be forgotten, and that's Stan Sweet.
There will be a program slideshow from the British Exchange that was made in Britain, and with just a little bit of pause, it'll start.
Sending all our love from the best.
Love from Matilda.
Love from Broadstairs.
And love from Morgan's.
So the next group will be friends. And the next speaker is Dina Miles.
Thank you, nerds. Yoda said, "Death is a natural part of life, so rejoice for those around you who transform into the Force." While nothing feels natural about losing Stan suddenly and too early, we must rejoice in celebration of a life so well lived. And I have no doubt his life force is with us today and will be forever. So Rob and I became friends with Stan back when our 4 kids, Olivia, Derek, Trevor, and Jordan, were around middle school age. At that time, Rob had the great pleasure of working with his grandfather, Bill, on a project, and he encouraged Stan to invite all 6 of us up to the cabin. I thought, this poor teacher, he probably wants to get away from all these kids. It turns out we had a lot in common. I graduated high school a few years ahead of him, and Rob's work at the Boys and Girls Club meant they knew and cared for many of the same children in our community. I've been thinking a lot about our first trip to the cabin. Stan greeted us with a very tasty beverage. We cruised all over the property, and he made an amazing meal using fresh ingredients from the garden, and we barbecued oysters. That night around the fire, he told the kids stories about the cabin's ghost, Maury, and Moss Man sightings. After, in his melodic teacher voice, he announced that he was putting in a movie so they could snuggle up in the loft for the night. He joined Rob and me on the deck and gave us our first taste of really good bourbon and dark chocolate, Lily Bell chocolate. The night was cold and clear. We had Patches and Scout snuggled on our laps. He went in to grind fresh coffee beans for the morning. I'm a Folgers girl. And I remember saying to Rob, where has this man been our whole life? During the first few months of our friendship, Stan heard me casually mention, might have been gin-induced musings, that a dream vacation for me would be taking our family on a tropical vacation, and that our kids were the perfect age for it. He told me about the old times he spent on Kauai with his family and said he could check to see if the family timeshare was still available. It was a passing thought at the time, or so I thought, but Stan was really good at planting seeds. 4 days later, he called me and said, "You know, it's available in August. I think we should just make this happen for you." We learned that he had also mobilized his best friend, Dave, from England, and he'd bring his little sister, Evelyn. Every step of the way, Stan found ways to make the trip special for us. Rather than just telling our kids we were going to Hawaii, he came over and hid clues in our house and sent them on a scavenger hunt to discover the surprise. When we landed in Kauai, he hopped out of the convertible he and Dave rented. We were in a minivan, story of our life, and handed us a CD of songs he had made just for us. He said, "Put it on track 7 right now. It's our vacation anthem." I had never had a vacation anthem. This was awesome. The song was Viva La Vida by Coldplay. During our trip, he had us all jot down memories at the end of the day in a journal that afterwards he gave to Rob and me with a framed magazine print that highlighted all of our inside jokes and good times from our vacation. I share this story because it's so quintessential Stan. He had the most amazing superpower. He gave his friends experiences to remember, and he showed his devotion to us in ways big and small. It could be a laugh out loud text on his way through Walmart, a helping hand hanging pictures, or a trip to the Philippines. Stan made it his mission to bring his people together. He was our cruise director, always trying to connect us with each other in ways that had made his life and ours even more layered and more meaningful. We seem like an eclectic group, Stan's people: doctors, educators, artists and artisans, attorneys, business owners, retirees, lifetime friends from school. Our commonality is that we got it. We got him, his sharp wit, even the snark, especially the sarcasm, that charming but slightly naughty giggle, and mostly his gracious and loving heart. And in return, he cherished us like family, checking in on us, supporting us through tough times, giving us chores, helping us pick out major appliances. He introduced us not only to each other, but to the good life. Always a teacher at heart, he taught his friends how to can, how to garden, how to make apple cider, how to bake a chicken, how to make a proper cup of coffee. And he made us all believe we were really, really good dancers. We met Stan when he was single. That guy was wound kind of tight. He had a full life, family, friends, career, but with Royce, he had a complete life. And like all adventures with Stan and Royce, the weekend of their union was epic, including an unfortunate attempt to marry them at the Southeast Criminal Division in Portland. We celebrated that very special day with cousins Casey and Nellie and special friends Kelly and Maggie. Stan and Roy shared a common history, growing up in small towns, working on their respective family properties, and breaking out of expectations to lead lives that were genuine, authentic, accepting, and full of an expanding pack of corgis. Everything became sweeter for all of us with Royce by his side. Stan leaves us with a blueprint for a life well lived. To live like Stan means appreciating the fine things in life, but cherishing the simple times. It means living with intention, making plans, finding humor in life, and pointing it out in sometimes wicked ways. Having fun, loving hard. May Stan's life force be with you.
Next speaker is me. So, Geraldine Samara, better known as G, wrote an ode to Stan, which I feel is so appropriate for right now. So I will attempt to read it and get through it. Ode to Stan. Ode to Stan. As a boy, he wanted to be a cowboy riding his pony. His dad brought home a pretty horse that had a white foal in due course. He thought Flower was a good name, but for a colt, that may be lame. After some thought, he squealed with joy and said, I'll call him Flower Boy. He tried to ride his father's horse, but got bucked off with so much force. That's it, he said, I'm no cowboy. But he stayed friends with Flower Boy. He went to school, learned how to teach. He brought kids' dreams within their reach. When kids saw him and they smiled to greet, hello, Patches and Mr. Sweet. He loved his corgis, they're his heirs, his Dyson ready for shed hairs. He loved his cabin in Agnes, where Sasquatch roamed the wild darkness. He loved to host and found a way to gather all for fun and play. 1 gin martini, have no fear, but 2, 3, 4, uh-oh, oh dear. He loved to cook, pickle and can. Who doesn't love that kind of man? He took pottery, aced the class. He made plates, bowls, even stained glass. Yet, he loved to geek out on cars, BSG, Star Trek, and Star Wars. He loved his gadgets, tools and toys, but above all, he loved his Royce. We say, live, laugh, and love like Stan. With tears and cheers, we chant, we can. He lit our lives with so much joy. To us, he is, or was, a true cowboy. Thank you, G, for writing that. Now, Stan would not have wanted any event about him to end on too somber a note. So, I'd like everyone to pretend you have something to toast with. And raise your pretend glass in a toast to Stan. Ready? To Stan. Thank you. Next, we have a song by Stephanie Sweet Saxton and accompanied by Georgia Huna.
And there we go.
He sang this song. He sang this song, Ahivela. It meant bright star. That's what it means. And Ahivela, come. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder how you are. High above the sky so high, like a diamond in the sky. Ah, he vela, mine loco, ikahana, aloha, elave mai, ene kokina, koni koni lu, wa ikapuai, imu imu, oku ia, ha'o ha'o, auia love mai e nei copina coni coni lu puoi capire coni coni lu puoi capire. Hey, how sweet, how sweet. By the way, when he sang that song, you know, he forgot the words, and then he made, he made his own version. It's supposed to be Love and Mine, and he forgot that. And he said, hey, la la. He was in La La Land, that's what happened. But he made $1 million off of that recording, So it just goes to show you can make mistakes in life, But that was a song for Stan, if you guys don't mind,
And you guys, this is my sister Evelyn. This is Stan's baby sister.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Thank you, Evelyn. That's your big sister. Thank you.
Good job. Oh, by the way, we got a ukulele club if you guys want to join.
Thank you, Evelyn, Stephanie, and George. Finally, just one last thing as the program almost comes to an end. I want to remind people that we hope to create an enduring honor for Stan through the Stan Sweet Legacy Fund that will be used to fund special teacher projects that will enrich student learning. We believe that Stan would like such an honor. Information is available in the lobby. Thank you all for coming.
Yeah, sure.
Stan.